everyone. We're very happy to open this beautiful exhibition. Thanks to Deborah. Basically, she's very interested in textiles, and all this is from Dakshin Chitra collection, except the lungis or something that you see. And most of us who think we know textiles, we don't know much. When you see the show, you know that you just know a part of Tamil Nadu textiles. And we are extremely happy to have Jaisila Stephen, who is an expert who has written many books on Deccan textiles. I have to get Google and read more about him. So last minute, it just clicked and he's here. He's flying back to Paris tonight. And Mohan Rao is from Chirala, where the researcher went and met a lot of weavers. So he is from Chirala, the weaver is from Chirala. They also come. Though it's checked Fabric of Tamilnadu, we kind of give a rounded feeling to this whole exhibition. More in the seminar we'll hear, and we invite you to just light the lamp and start this month-long exhibition. She'll also present the papers. Thank you. You can just have a quick tea and some cookies and then move on to the seminar hall. We'll start by 10:45. And the show is on till the end of April, so whoever has missed, you can tell your friends to come and see the exhibition. It's 10:30. Yeah. 10:45.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming to our seminar today and to our exhibition. In 1994, exactly 24 years ago, we held a seminar on textiles of the Coromandel Coast. And this was a culmination of research which we had done over 3 years. And all the fabric you see in the textile exhibition is around 30 years old now. It's what we collected at that time. Some of it was old at that time. So we wanted to revisit what was happening today from all the weaving centers which we had visited in the early 90s and late 80s. And so through the courtesy and generosity of Chola Finance of the Murugappa Group, we were able to put on this exhibition and to have the seminar and to hire Srimati Mohan for the research and to do the videos for the exhibition. So our thanks to Chola. And what we are also today very, very fortunate to have Dr. Jayasila Stephen. He was at our first seminar 24 years ago. He is an expert on maritime trade of textiles. He has written many books. One of his books is here. It's called Oceanscapes, Tamil Textiles in the Early Modern World. And he's written about 9 books, I think. And we are just so lucky that he's here because he actually lives in France. He's the director of the Institute for the Research on Indo-European Studies, basically, in Lyon. And he's flying out tomorrow. So we're very delighted that he's here. And he will take us up to date on the history of the textile. I was going to talk about the learnings from the earlier seminar. Again, much of the history, this is the history. But I'll take a little bit from Joanne Eicher's work. She worked with the Calabaris in West Africa. Calabaris are a tribe, Western Delta tribe in Nigeria. They live on the islands of the Niger River. And basically, unless he corrects me, the Portuguese were exporting cloth to West Africa from the 1500s for the slave trade. And one of the items that they exported was the indigo blue and white on white checks. And this cloth then had the nomenclature of the cloth of sorrow because it wrenched so many families apart through slavery. And some of these cloths scarves found their way into the Kalabari tribes, and they kept them as sacred objects, almost as part of their ancestor worship. Why? Because they said these cloths had seen the face of our ancestors. And then over time, probably in the 1700s, as there was more and more trade into West Africa, more saturated color came into the textiles. They became an item which was sought after by the Calabaris. And even today, they're still wearing cloth from Tamilnadu and Andhra. And basically, it's used at birth. It's given in the cradle. You can see the photos in the exhibition to cradle the baby. It's what the woman wears at puberty. It's what she wears at marriage. The men wear it as either kaftans or lungis. The women wear it as wraps and headdresses. And at the time of death, the Calabaris have a very special ritual for death, where they decorate different rooms in the houses. And one room is completely decorated with RMHK. And that's the most important room in the house, and that's the first room in which the body is laid. So the body is laid on the RMHK. The ceilings all around is covered with RMHK. That's why we put the canopy up. And then you move from room to room. So as you can see also from the exhibition, fashions change. So fashion started as simple checks, and then we're looking at now in the 20th century. They went to more saturated check patterns, like we have later 60-40s, one yard square. And from there, when we started doing our work, cut work had just become popular. That's when they take the floats from the lighter, taking the lighter areas, and the women themselves were pulling out the threads. And so the Tamil weavers then, started having people cut the threads so that it would go to them as cut work. And from there, extra weft was added, and then from there, in the late 70s, through Mentor Beardsall and Captain Nair, they added a jacquard attachment onto the hand looms. Now what does a jacquard do? A jacquard is like an early computer. It has punch cards, where when you graph the design, you punch the holes so that where the threads have to be lifted, so that the design can come on the fabric. And so with that jacquard attachment, they were able to do many more different types of designs. So they also switched material from cotton to silk, synthetic silk, polyester, metallic threads. So that you can also see in the exhibition. And even today they're wearing it. Now, the Real Madras handkerchief has gone through its ups and downs. And one thing that you learn when you study textiles is that weavers, the handloom weavers, are at the brunt of all the economic and political happenings. So you'll have feast, perhaps in the 70s and early 80s, there was a tremendous amount of export. Then Nigeria banned the fabric. Before that, they had, one other point, they had added a 70% customs duty on it. And it became, the riyal in Nigeria had fallen, so it became too expensive for people to buy. But after they banned it, what was happening? This was going on at the time we were doing our research. The cloth was being smuggled in from Benin. Now, quite a few of the families from Chirala had sent one of their relatives to Benin, and these relatives were living in Benin, so that they could immediately understand what new designs were coming in, and then send them back by post to India, so that their own handloom weavers could copy the designs. At that time, there were quite a few export houses in Madras that had full design centers for Real Madras handkerchief. And even then, they were getting fed up because they said, what point is it we have a 2-week window only when our designs come in before they're all copied. So copying is also another problem that we face. So I think with that, we'll find out today what the situation for weavers is today, what the history behind the checks is. And we're so delighted with Stephen because he actually is the director of, as I said, this institute, and he's flying out tomorrow. Just in time. So we're so delighted that he could come, and he was so gracious to say that he would come. And we're also happy to welcome the director of the Handloom Export Promotion Council and his 2 colleagues who are also coming here today. And we hope you enjoy the seminar. It's more of a scholarly seminar. We also have the weaver speaking. And enjoy. And Stephen, you're the first speaker.
Distinguished participants, friends, Madame and Monsieur, bonjour, good morning. It's my cup of tea that I have come to drink, and I thank Deborah Theatrajan for inviting me, and I could prepare something what is going on in my work, the next work that I am doing. Just to give you a brief idea about the commencement of the textiles and the trade from production to the making of the profit margin in the age of the expanding European commerce and also in the age of empire. We know from historical point of view that 4 major trading zones of textiles, that's Kambe, Gujarat, Coromandel, Orissa, and Bengal. Formerly it has been known that part of Bengal was Orissa, and it's like that. But historically speaking, when we look at the Portuguese documents, Dutch company records, French company records, Danish company records, and the English East India Company records, we have neat mention of the varieties of textiles. Therefore, when I was working initially on maritime history, particularly trading all commodities, I particularly chose to work on textiles, where I found wealth of information stored in various repositories in Europe. To begin with, I started, and I thought that I would work only on the Tamil coast, because being a Tamil, I could have easy access to the names of the places and the production centers, and therefore I chose to work only on the Tamil coast. But I have documents on the Telugu coast, which also equally is very good for textile production, and now I am promoting a team of scholars, students doing PhD under me, to work on them. Now, the region I have chosen is Tamil coast. The period I have chosen is 16th to 18th centuries. So, when we think of the textiles, as I have pointed out in this book, there are about 280 varieties of textiles named during these 300 years. 280 varieties, and the lists are being given, and the designs, measurements, length, width, breadth. Besides, the places of production and textiles were also named after the places. But to this seminar, to make a meaningful presentation, I have chosen that the ongoing work that I am doing, and I will restrict myself to this, particularly the checked fabric colors and designs exported from the Tamil coast in the early modern age. To begin with, I wish to state that earlier work I focused my attention on the textiles via Cape of Good Hope route. Now, over a period of years, nearly about 15 years of research, I found amazingly the area through which the textiles traveled around the world is left unexplored. That is, from the Tamil coast, from the Telugu coast, from Orissa and from Bengal, particularly the Bay of Bengal, not Gujarat. The textiles traveled first from Bay of Bengal to the Philippines, Manila, and from Manila they reached Mexico. From Mexico, textiles have reached Spain. So it was earlier from Tamil coast, from Masulipatam, Madras, and to Europe via Cape of Good Hope. Now, to begin with, I would like to identify from the company records, particularly Real Filipino Company, that is the Royal Philippine Company, which was established in the 18th century, took keen interest particularly on the textiles that we are dealing with now, particularly the textile checked fabrics, out of which the various varieties named in the Spanish records are: number one, allegiance. It is checked and striped. The colors are only red and white or blue and white. It's neatly mentioned. Second, kattavan. Kattam, square. These blocks of square, not single square. Blocks of square, kattavan. It's also striped plus blocks and often made of kattams. This is what is neatly mentioned. The word kattam is written in Tamil letter ka, ita, im. And you find the specimens preserved in the museums in Spain at the rivers VOC. So even the Dutch East India Company had taken textiles to Manila and sold and made profit. But the cloth traveled via Mexico to Spain. Earlier they were trading from Batavia to India, Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town, and then to Amsterdam. The ships were reaching. That was the route they used. Now the third variety is called blouse. It is blue and white, striped and checked. The fourth one is Guinea, checked and sometimes striped, but it was always used as a slave cloth. Next one variety is called Chela. It is sailor, sari. Striped and checked, having printed heads and borders. It's a little translation I have made from Spanish. The next variety is Jinghams. In Malay, it means striped. In Malay language, Jingham is striped. But sometimes checked also. Blue and white and red colors only. Mataflutes. Striped, sometimes checked, but this is a woven cloth. It's mentioned, it's a woven cloth. Now, it is a printed cloth. It is a woven cloth. The next variety is metaphors. It is striped and sometimes checked also. Of course, checked always there, but without stripes they cannot be checked. So they are mixing, but I have not brought this, what do you call the plates that I have stored, which I had very little time, otherwise I would give you samples of all this and the, what do you call, the logo of the companies printed on the cloth. Next one is mouchoir. It's in French, it's handkerchiefs. Striped, checked also. Some of them are embroidered. So here they mention striped, checked, and sometimes also embroidered. But the French East India Company purchased them from Ghana, from Madapolam, Pondicherry, Trancoban and Pulicat. The next one, very simple, it is Rumal. As all of you know very well about that. But one thing I want to add here is real Madras handkerchief. The history of that is not known to us, but from the company records we find it is Real is royal. In Spain they use Real, is royal. So Real Madras handkerchief means it is Royal Madras handkerchief. It's not in the English term real. Now the next cloth is Nikarish. Striped and checked, but this is used only for the use of slaves. When they are sent in groups, and this is particularly for women, women slaves. Now, the next one is very interesting, which had been purchased in abundance and exported. It is Saduranshis, Saduram. It is square, but not blocks of square. It is merely square. Saduranshis, Saduram. The term is written Sadurayim, Saduram, within bracket. And the cloth, you see varieties. It has got, the square is there, floral designs are there. Animal designs are there. Various motifs are there. So, this a large scale export cloth, which was in high demand in Mexico. Next, the last one is sarong. Sarong is, you know, in Malay it is lungi, sarong. And there are a number of places called sarong. In the environs of the hinterland of the port, several ports, sarong, a village, it's what you call a quarters, only meant for the weavers of this particular lungi cloth, sarong. In Pondicherry we have got place sarong. But today, only 10 families are there. When I visited 2 years ago, 14 families were living. 4 families have given up weaving this lungi. Now only 10 families, they are doing this weaving. This is striped, but large striped. long and large stripe in the form of check glass. So these varieties are being reported. Now, I would like to give you sorry, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just give you the brief idea about my presentation.
10 minutes.
Okay. See, the creation of the Royal Philippine Company in 1785 ultimately proved to have been the most effective step taken by the Spanish monopolies to curtail the autonomy of New Spain's commercial dealings in Asia. The access to India of Spanish ships coming via Eastern Gateway, that is, by the Bay of Bengal and Sunda Straits, posed a slightly different problem to the Spaniards. It posed no competition against Royal Philippine Company's direct trade from Cadiz. On the contrary, it would lower the cost of goods brought to Manila from Acapulco by the galleons, where silver was exchanged for purchase of cloth. And the company's Lima galleon. From this point of view, the Manila authorities and the company officials had a common end to pursue. But this was not the only reason that this aspect of the problem was less prickly than regarding the direct trade from Spain to India. Access to India for Spanish ships for Manila could possibly increase the traffic between India and Manila and strengthen the entrepôt role of Manila. But the benefit may be only marginal, as permission from the Spanish crown would merely recognize and legalize an already existing practice. Despite strict injunctions from Spain against the practice, in the second half of the 18th century, local officials in Manila had countenanced the clearance and return of Spanish ships to Cavite. Spanish ships began directly to sail and reach Madras as early as in 1784, where these various types of checked fabrics were exported. But some of them were also produced in various places north of Madras, like Masulipatam. It's written, Masulipatam Rumas, Pedapollam Rumas, it's mentioned. But since they came from, produced in Telugu coast, brought to Madras and exported, they were called Madras language. Actually, when we look at the documents, the place of origin meaning is different. Only from the place of embarkation, but there are neat labels attached to each bundle of cloth, which I will explain. Now, Spanish ships which came took all these textiles. This commerce was carried on with special care, not flagrantly from the centuries-old Spanish laws, nor to taunt the susceptibilities of British India. Benguet Maquina, the then governor of the Philippines, admitted that the trade of Coromandel was so important for the Spanish Manila, otherwise it would be difficult for its growth, particularly in textiles. It has been mentioned in the record that the small port of Karinga in Andhra emerged as a major collection center for textiles of these various varieties. And they were shipped by the Danish who were in Masulipatam at that time. And they brought it to Trancobar, and from Trancobar it was sent to Manila. Similarly, the Portuguese also received at Sangoma Mylapore, and from Mylapore they exported to Manila. From Madras, the types of rumas, they are numbered. The varieties, there have been 11 varieties of rumas. Serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 were in high demand. Number 9 and 10 were not in high demand. So, in Kalinga itself, sometimes they used direct shipments to Manila. And Masulipatam also had direct contacts with Manila. And therefore, they began to export these real Madras handkerchiefs. But still they write real Madras. It's royal. For example, the Sultan of Sulu in Philippines wanted to purchase, and therefore he owned the ships. And he sent his own ships to collect in Madras and Masulipatam. And the profit margin, 200%. Bernardo Alice, the governor of China, who encouraged Portuguese traders, and he confirmed certain privileges for and for the use of Portuguese flag, and he also sent the ships. And these are available in the Canton diaries, preserved in the British Library in London. So when you go through them, you find that their textiles, particularly the checked fabrics, the 14 varieties, which were in high demand and very popular, were shipped, and they first reached Canton. And from Canton it was sent to Manila. And from Manila again it reached Mexico. And then Spain. Now, while the private Spanish adventurers also wanted to, they braved themselves and to wanted, government in Manila was virtually paralyzed by a sense of propriety in sending ships to India. The Spanish government, from a motive of delicacy, perhaps never permitted their ships to hoist the Spanish flag. Now they say that you can take the Portuguese flags. If you are caught, you are caught. If not, you make money. But a certain percentage, 40%, you have to give as a commission. So this was going on, but the British in India were observing the new developments by the rival companies, the rival Europeans, and they wanted. And therefore, what happened is, the governor of Madras directly got in touch with the governor of Manila, and hereafter we find number of agreements signed between the Royal Philippine Company in Manila and governor of Fort St. George in Madras to purchase. It's at this time the other companies begin to lose their trade. After having negotiations, you find ships, nearly 14 ships sailing from Madras to Manila, carrying bales of cloth. Here, the ships are, so many ships are there, like El Bonzenchu, Venus, Estrella, Palas, Juno, Santa Rosa, Santa Ines, all these names. But the owners of the ships named them. But these are not Indian ships, except 3 merchants, Tamils, who owned ships. And they also started trading, but the governor of Madras was very kind enough to encourage their trade. What happened is, around 1800, ships that sailed under Danish flag, they were bought frequently, and goods were raided, and auction was conducted, and they were discouraged to indulge in this thing. The Royal Philippine Company did not spare efforts to widen its concessions. Later 5 years, it petitioned and won elimination of the obligatory stopover in Manila, thus securing direct trade between Spain and India. Now, ships sailing from Madras to Mexico without touching Manila developed. And here we find bundles and bundles of cargo. But wine barrels were kept at the bottom of the ship to maintain the balance. And here, the development of wine trade also develops eventually. Now, it was at this time in Spain, the Real Compañía, the Royal Company thinks that they can conduct a trade from Cadiz, that is the famous port in Spain, to send ships to Trancobar and to Calcutta and to collect ships. They also made attempts and they began to trade now again, sending ships by the name Columbus and San Julian and Clive, Princesa Asturias and Ustera Señor de Bulos Ceses. These ships continuously sailed, they made annual sailings, and they sailed from 1797 to 1818. And thus, again, Cape of Good Hope route, textiles developed. And it must have been a great relief to British in India when in 1807 the Portuguese traders suspended their supply of line silver to Manila when war broke out between Portugal and French occupied Spain. So the restoration of friendly relations between Britain and Spain in 1808 finally regularized the status of Manila to European shipping, notably with cargoes of these check fabrics, encouraged the principal European partners in Asia too. Textiles from the Tamil coast to the Philippines, particularly handkerchiefs, were still popular in 1814. J. Hunt's account of the expedition noted that as a headdress, most of the Zulu men in Philippines preferred the red handkerchiefs of pulikat, and only a few liked the Japanese handkerchiefs. So therefore, since there was what you call, we have this documentation wherein it is mentioned, but in the Spanish author, some of them who have made a few small articles and they are published in Spanish, they have identified this place Pulikat writing Calcutta. They could not distinguish between the two places, Calcutta and Pulikat, because it is written Palikat. They thought Calcut. That way they have written, but the logos are there in the emblems and the companies and the slips attached, which are preserved in the museums, are where when we see them, it's very visible that it is from Palikat, P-A-L-E-A-C-A. It's not Calcutta. So this needs some correction. And I also pointed out to those authors who made articles and everything. Now to conclude, now the series of documents available are in Sevilla, a place in Spain, Arcas. It is Archivos General de India, Sevilla. A section goes Filipinas 985 to 1461. These bundles, the complete bundles, one has to go through, and at least 10 PhD students could work on the nature and the composition, commodity composition of trade and the other things. Second one is that we have got also a series of papers. If people are available here, they could go to Andhra Pradesh State Archives, Masulipatanam Consultations and Masulipatanam District Records. Here we have the Royal Philippine Company's orders, agreements, that is purchase order, supply order, along with certain specifications are also mentioned. So I have collected a few samples, but the authorities did not provide me with microfilms. I want to preserve them in my institute so that scholars could work without coming to Hyderabad. So there are about 18 big volumes, Masulipatanam District Records, and it is from manuscript number 2840. That's the beginning, first one. It starts with the Royal Philippine Company's investment, sample requests and places of production. In fact, names of the weavers, master weavers are all entered. So there are, some of them have signed the agreements in Telugu signature. Document is in English. And these have been done from the Masulipatanam agents of the English East India Company. The third one is a series of documents. They are written in Egerton papers, and manuscript number 514 onwards up to 518. We have got this bundle. I don't know how this series of Madras papers finally found way to British library, because these to be with particularly they have to be stored in Tamilnadu archives, and the series are not available here. They have been sent, and if one goes there, they can also collect. The last one is also in the same one, Canton Consultation and Lectures. It's from serial number 126, 1799 to 1800 onwards, up to 122. We have the complete series. So I just wish to give you an idea about the documents available for future research so that scholars could use them, and this is only a sketch what I have. I'm sorry, I could not do any justice. It's only such a major work. I think all of you should think of and have a plan and do this work. And once again, I express my heartfelt thanks for inviting me. And thank you very much for appreciating.
bring Jayalaseelam back when he has more time and he can show the slides. And the last time at our seminar before, he discussed all the European trade, going as he said around the Cape of Good Hope, which is also very fascinating. And yeah, the wealth of knowledge. He speaks so many languages that he has gone into all the original archives in all their native tongues, so that he has an advantage that other scholars don't have. And he's also very precise. Anyway, thank you again, Jayalaseelam.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming, and we have quite a lot of speakers lined up. It was so interesting because just like in Google, when you just click something, you get these highlights, and while he was talking, I was thinking, oh, I should research on that, oh, you should look at this. So his speech is like Googling, where he gives you hints on various things. You want to go back and search on this, that, and we're extremely grateful. And you mentioned Machilipatnam. We have a permanent exhibition of Kalamkari. It's inside the Chettiar house in Dakshina Chitra. So me and Vaishnavi was here, we went filming, and just for filming we went to Machilipatnam. So the problem all over about textiles is the power loom and the hand loom. For the first time I knew that hand painted is from Kalahasti and the block prints is from Machilipatnam. The basic things I didn't know. Only when I was there I realized. Of course, Devi is one, she's passionate about textiles. The other day when we were chatting, she said even as a young girl she loved sewing, and she used to go visit all the textile exhibition, and she has a wide range of sarees, extremely beautiful, hand woven and very, very expensive. So coming back to balance both. You see the lungis, the power loom and the hand loom. Naturally, people who cannot afford would go for the power looms. So how to keep the balance? In Machilipatnam, we were interviewing quite a few, the craftspeople or the weavers. On one side the block prints would be done. 50 men would be doing the superb blocks. The blocks themselves are like art pieces. They'll all be soaked in coconut oil, hundreds of them. And then they do blocks. 1 to 2 is their lunchtime. They go like machines, They start doing it. Beautiful combinations. And on the other side, you go further to the other side of the house, screen printing is done. Because what will the weaver do? Because he can't let others take over the business. He has to survive. So he is just doing both. One area, this is done. So we as academicians, not me, but the scholars would be saying, but they all want their children to have a good life and not struggle like them, So there's a big gap, and it's not just about Kalamkari, about every other weaving bit. So that was my learning, and so much to learn. He says 280 different kinds of textile. I'm sure you have. Saris, I always think is the best artwork from India, and people are always fascinated with the unstitched fabric. The sari, they look at it as an unstitched fabric, so you never think of it like that. For instance, we don't take lungi seriously because they're everywhere in Chennai, all over. And Xavier was here, said, what is there no mention of puli cat in your exhibition? That's where it went from. The lungi was not even, lungi is an Arabic word, and what did they say? Actually, wrap was the word for lungi, because literally it's a wrap, right? So he says Pulicat has no mention here, and so Xavier is here. Anyway, so about lungis, M. Vasanta, who is the professor in Chennai, she has done, case study was on this, the legacy of yarn dyed cotton lungis of Kannur. Of course, Srimati, who's the coordinator for this exhibition, she went around to Chirala, Kannur, and she's very excited. She even made a top out of a lungi. She got so involved with the project. One day she turned up with a lungi. So we're very happy to listen to Vasanta. The case study traces the origin of one such legendary fabric of India, the traditional yarn dyed hand-woven cotton lungi of Kannur. Kannur, is 160 kilometers away from Chennai. And we're happy to have you.
Very good morning to one and all present here. It's really humbling to make a presentation after Dr. Jayalaseelam. It really humbles. I'm getting goosebumps because we need to read a lot of your papers online, and it really is it's a very good feeling. I feel really nice about this moment. Thank you so much for making the process. And thank you for the opportunity. Let me get started. Yeah, this is going to be a visual journey. I would like to share what I went through with all of you. Of course, just like pointed out, lungi is not considered very seriously. We don't take lungi so seriously. So let's get started. It's a case study on this slide. Yandai cartoon, piece of cartoon. Okay, this is the image that we get of lungi, the macho man. This is how our men project themselves. Yes, so it's a very typical look. So, yeah, the checked look. When we think of lungi, it's a checked, a man wearing it, and he doesn't care about whatever, he's macho and he knows what to do and he does what he knows is right. So this is what it is. And of course, it's not considered as a very, a right garment. In so many places, especially in temples and in formal places, you would have seen the board outside the temple, Kaili and Ulle Varakudadu. I mean, that's in Tamil. So, you're not allowed to wear lungis and come inside as though it's, the garment has sinned or something and then, no, it's not allowed. So, I thought, why not pick it up and then do it? Why not we, what is that's happening behind it? Yeah, next slide. Yeah, to start my thing, I would like to pay my tribute to Kamaladevi Chattopadhyaya. In her own words, cotton fabric may be said to be the pearl of Indian weaving. It really catches my pearl of Indian weaving. It's such a beautiful word that she could describe it. I think, see how she related. It were as though these craftsmen were magicians and very advanced to produce what seemed like dreams. Of course, we have silk brocades from Benares and all the other luxurious fabrics, what only the royalty could wear, afford to wear. But the other side, what the normal people wore on a daily basis, which was not so much talked about. But no matter what, both of them, I consider their labor of love. So that is what this paper is all about. We're going to look at what really goes behind the scene in terms of making these weavings. Every single fabric has its own unique character, comes from a distinctive weaving tradition. Before I get started, I also wanted to clarify what do we call, what fabrics are called as checks, stripes and plaits. So we understand so that we have a good understanding. Stripes, we have one color in the warp and when you use another color, stripe up happens. And checks, actually they are a grid of squares. Whereas plates, when you have uneven checks, when you have different bits of stripes when they crisscross each other. So this is for our general understanding, and all kinds of fabrics, we just call them as check fabric. But they all fall into checks, stripes and plates. And this present study, actually, my presentation, I really wish I could, because we're all teacher, you give us a mic, my God. So I really am really, but this particular presentation has three separate portions where I'm trying to stay history, of course, thanks to Dr. Jayasilan, because you really created the context for the entire presentation. So I'm not going to really deal with that very greatly. After that, I visited the clusters and then looked at what is the present-day practice all about, and then I've interacted with exporters, then buyers from Malaysia, Indonesia, and end users there to know what is really happening. So that's the third portion, that's the last portion. So accordingly, I've taken up the secondary research on to trace the origin, ethnographic instruments research in the craft clusters. The villages I visited, Bandipalayam, Palayam, Pudupettai, Kurunjipadi and Naduverapattam. These are the villages I visited. And finally, I've undertaken interviews over phone sometimes I met them in person, and then that's the methodology that I follow. Now what is the lungi? Lungi, Hindi from Persian lungi, is an unstitched length of cloth draped around the waist and falling like a narrow skirt. So this is what is actually lungi. who gave any writes about Indian costume museums, written loads of books. He says maybe the way the clothes are draped, of course, our architecture, temple architecture, stand is evidence for it. A cloth which is just wrapped around the thing probably initiated this particular garment. And of course, we have what is so called as unstitched. We never depended on a tailor to get dressed. So it was ready to wear, ready to be worn as it came from the loom, be it menswear, be it menswear, whatever it is. It was ready to be worn. We never had to run behind a tailor to make a blouse for us or go shopping to do the matching, petticoats, nothing. It came straight from the loom and it was. And it will be like, I would like to share, recently Indira Gandhi et al., they done scientific research. They proved these thread garments actually can control the body temperature according to you can really interact with the external temperature very well. The way in which you drape them. It's really amazing. They've proven it. They've draped in different ways. And then they proved how the body temperature can really, it's like a air conditioning. When you wear a sari or a dhoti, it's like an air conditioning. The way you drape, you can really regulate. So yeah, dhoti, we know what is dhoti. Of course, now it's menswear. We know it's unbleached white. And normally, it is worn in a kacha style between the legs and also wrapped around. And of course, today we see dhotis during weddings, and of course, lots of advertisement now, botiko, katiko, all that is happening in the market. Yes. Yeah. Now, when where we come across lungi is I've taken John Coates Watson's reference where he mentioned lungi is a small scarf or plaid worn across the shoulder by a male. Was actually referred. It was not a wrap. It was not a wrap which was used around the waist. Rather, it was a drape which was worn around the shoulder. That was what was known as lungi. Actually, Karuna Vilanga, she points out, we really don't know when the transition happened. When they started wearing checked dhotis. We really have no clue. But in the company paintings, she actually identified, especially a particular Muslim community, Dubai's, wearing dhotis. Actually, she used the words dhotis, which are checked. They were not called as lungis at that point of time. They were dhotis, but they never wore in kacha style. They were only draped around like a skirt. So there are more paintings to show how a particular community is slowly associating themselves with that particular look, checked dhotis. Yes, another picture. Of course, we can make up. So this is slowly happening during that particular period. And slowly this checked waist strap became increasingly popular among menswear, Muslim men, and came to be known as lungi. Somehow we really don't know. Of course, in India we don't have really evidences when exactly it happened. We really see the gradual thing. Lungi was called as it was a wrap. It was a shoulder shawl, but later it was called as lungi and it associates itself with the particular community. Yeah, slowly it came passed on to the mainstream. Now, Indian men also prefer it because of the comfortability. They can leave it when somebody comes home and they can lift it and then do whatever when they do the chores, and it's the most comfortable fabric. A garment to be worn at home. One size fits all, yes. So, it's more like an informal dress where you see them sitting there and then talking, and then, it's a very, very comfortable kind of clothing. So, it just got up. Actually, in 20th century, the checked lungi was exported to several countries where Tamil migrants had settled. So we can see the gradual way how lungi took off. And this is again a very, very interesting thing. Of course, we are very proud of our heritage. The Hema Devi, the Trina paper, she argues, people in Southeast Asian countries adopt to the wraps or the sarang, so-called whatever. It's known by different names in different places. Burma, they call it as longi, sarang. different places. In different places known by different names. She claims it's because of the textile that were exported from India also created the silhouettes for them, menswear. It greatly influenced the menswear. It's a very heartening thing to know that we are the one who created the look. Of course, it's now become part and parcel of their life. They're not allowed to enter into the mosque without wearing a check lungi. And you'll be surprised to know, I mean, when I was interacting with the buyer there in Malaysia, people now, they are buying, I mean, they're making a pack. Like because they need to go to the office, they need to visit the mosque. So they're actually packaging a lungi within a leather package. So when they sell, they also sell the pack. So they can just go there, wash their legs and then wrap it around, go, pray, come back, again take it, keep it in the thing and carry it just like that. So it's something, I mean, it's part of the tradition. Yeah, this I really want to, because many people were confused when I was doing on lungi, they were asking, is it RMH? I mean, is it handkerchief or is it lungi? What is that? So I just thought I'll just put them here. Yeah. It is also known as Thai, Sari, Kamboy, Kambayam. This is all the different ways by which it is. So these are all the trade names. Lungi is often woven with patterns such as stripes and plates. Yeah. It exists in both sheet and tubular form. We understand what is the sheet and tubular form. It's stitched. It usually measures 2 meters by 1.25 meters. That's a standard size. I was told now they are moving on to bigger size because of obesity. The problem of obesity. So this is leading to 2.15 and then they're also increasing it by 1.4. So they increase the size according to the demand that is there in Malaysia. The cotton can popular 60s by 40. See, this was actually mentioned by Amin Sar in 1926, beginning of 20th century. And it was very, when I found out the same practice is happening even today. We haven't changed the look of the thing, we haven't changed the counts of yarn, it's almost the same. Yeah, this just to show the way in which it's draped. Yes. This is a tubular form. And of course, these are the two different styles that we see. One formal style, another one is very cool style. Yes, please. Yeah, origin of checked little bit. I won't stay here for a long time because we already have a context of this. Yeah, definitely, there are a lot of things when with the check fabric went, or we copied the Scottish tartans and then we made, the checks. There are a lot of debates and things like that. So this is definitely proven by researchers like Dr. Jayasri did. Loads of them. Definitely this stage is so very old. It's hundreds of years old. And yeah, there are two main formats, handkerchief or scarf and lungi. Both are 60s in 60s count. I mean, when I say 60s count, those who are not from a textile background, those are finer count compared to 40s which are coarser. So they use coarser count. Coarser is thicker yarns. 60s are finer yarns. So they use coarser count in the weft, that is in the perpendicular direction to the selvage. Handkerchief was 36 inches by 8 yards with 80 inches by 128 picks. I mean, you can see it had more number of picks compared to lungis, which had only 84 picks. And that is how they were also paid less. They were only paid R compared to those who wove scarves. So yeah, we have loads of names associated with this particular fabric, which is like fascinating. Even today we are not like stopped wearing this checked fabric. I can see loads of you are wearing. So Palikat came, Palikat of course, Palikat, the context been already created. Palikat sounds known in Indonesia. Lungi Rumal, Lungi Madras, Asia Rumal, Bandana, Real Madras, Handkerchief, Bleeding Madras, Injury, George Cloth, Indian Cloth. Indian Madras checks. I mean, that's like never ending. Each one sort of owned the textiles. They could relate to it so well, they want to call it by their own name. That is what is actually different. Yes. Yeah, these are simple. I mean, I'm taking pictures how they adopted our fabric, which is made there, almost as theirs. It almost got intertwined with their lives, the old times and also the present time. Yeah. Of course, we always get influenced by our past. Yes, please keep moving the slides. Just how it went around the world. We've seen how it went to America, how it went to Caribbeans, and then to Southeast Asia, Middle East, and each one adopted it, and then each one molded. Of course, this is a present day. Yes. Yeah. And in India, during 20th, later part of the 20th century, handkerchief took a backstage, lungi took a front stage, and it was the dominant fabric that was produced. And that time, already the powerloom had entered into the market, into the manufacture, but still it took a front stage because the handmade lungis, the special natural dyes that they used on them, and the smell that was, that produced, it really could not be matched with the powerloom lungi, so it was still reigning that point of time. And Cuddalore, yeah, again, I think all of us are familiar with Cuddalore. It's a seaport and it's South Arcot district in Madras Presidency. Yes, next slide please. And it's, Cuddalore is known for weaving for quite some time. There are a lot of mention of it in the literature. We can just move on. And in the last 3 decades, actually, this is another thing. A lot of things lead to a lot of other things. Like a lot of things evolved. So it was happening all over Tamil Nadu. I myself seen that being woven in Saidapet area, and slowly it all went off this scene because of urbanization, a lot of other things. Slowly it moved to the rural area, and Cuddalore became the dominant region where handloom loomis were. Yeah, now we are moving on to the craft, and I'm going to show you. You may take the handloom lungi for granted. You may think, okay, lungi and not allowed, but you should know the processes that go behind the scene. It's like amazing, and you will shed tears of blood if you come to know that weavers are paying so less for the kind of work that they do. Yes, please. Yeah, these are the processes. I just put it in a flow chart. Of course, these are yarn dyeing fabrics. It starts with yarn dyeing. Then, of course, warp yarn go through different processes compared to wet yarn, warp yarn. After that, the bobbins are wound, into bobbins things, and then they have to get starched. Warp and then starched. Warping, you have to produce the warp in such a way so that you can create the shedding. Later, it can be interlaced accordingly. So, it is warped and it should be sized. Sizing is applying a stiffener on it so that it can withstand the loom pressure on it. And then attaching the warp to the loom, the single loom. Then wet yarn, they just get bound onto the bobbin and then the burn, and then they are ready. But each, steps take so much time, and then so much, again I can repeat, it's a labor of love. Yeah. So it was 60s actually. One bar, especially in Cuddalore and other areas, there are also, compared to Kachipuram, they prepare higher length of bar. Whereas in Cuddalore, they make very small length of bar, which really gives them a very special handle, I was told, because of the starch which is imparted are only for short lengths. So the handle of the fabrics are really supposed to be. Of course, we need to do some scientific study to prove it, but it's all very perceptual thing. Yes, please. They get dyed, and bar dyes are used for export market. Otherwise, they use natural. Yes, please. Yeah. Next one. This is just a journey. Of course, the color palette, you'll be surprised. Of course, we are always known for our bright colors: red, blue, green, purple. This is actually dyed in darker shades, so they can interact very well with the white color that's going to be used along with that. And after that, and another thing I've noticed there is the division of labor. In India, a lot of things happen with a lot of purposes. It kept the family together, the society together, and you would be so surprised to know the need of the loom was only made by the Muslim community. And then the starching was only done by another community. And then weavers were, no one was trespassing the others. And there was so much harmony in the society. So it was like, it still continued. And even at home, the old people, now we consider them like museum pieces and we don't want them around. But they have a purpose there.
You're all honestly old.
Not at all. Now, see, they really made them feel worthy of themselves. They could contribute something towards the household. They could contribute something. They just sit down and then do. They say, no, they say this, they can do it. They sit down after they finish whatever chores, they come and then sit down, they do it. It's also therapeutic, I think. I don't know if it's true, we'll have to really do some scientific study. But of course, they get that rupees 39 for whatever that. You can see a lot of women, after they finish their household chores, they sit down and then do this. Yeah, this is actually the shed. Next comes the warping. Warping actually prepares the long lens. I said 16 meters, that is 8 lungis in one war. So we call it as Alay Odal. So I saw this woman that day, happened to be Kritika. It's one of an auspicious day. She said, let me just finish this quickly, I'll have to go offer the food to God. Something like that. She was like quickly doing it, how they manage their household chores and then the weaving. It was like, good, yeah. Next one. And on average, it takes about 2 hours to complete the process, one bar. It fetches them rupees 176. And the bar that is formed thus is called as bar bar. Next one. So here it has a lease. Leases, you have the odd ones and then even one separated. It's now ready for the loom. You need this for the loom. Next one. Next step is the slicing of the outer. They actually do it in the early morning so that it doesn't get dried quickly. So they get up early in the morning. I was told this particular community, 4 to 6 skilled people do this for half an hour and they need to share 110 per hour for the process. Yes. And again, I would say, see, now we talk about sustainable design, it's all coming from West. And they are saying cradle to cradle, they're getting new zero waste. But when I go there, you see the kind of things that they use. Everything is so eco-friendly. I mean, nothing is wasted, nothing is thrown, it's all so much, intertwined with their lives, nothing is, so the kind of, the brush that they do is again from that solar cutter or whatever they call it. And even today they use it. Yeah, you can see the handle of the yarn changes after it is starched. It becomes manageable, it becomes stiffer. Yeah, the next step is creating the sticks and stripes. So this is what is the next step. And the next one now, the exporter, actually the ecosystem now there is the exporter and the weaver. There are, in some places there are master weavers, but the exporter directly interact with the weavers. The weaver means the weaver entire family, the wife and not the entire family, not the children anymore. The weaver and his wife. So that's what it is. So here is where the design for the particular lungi or whatever fabric is created. And you can see, this is they love to piecing, or in piecing it's what is called in English. The cut warp yarns are right, and you can see the leaves there. There are yarns which goes over, there are yarns which go under, and they have to tie up some 4,000 ends to it. They must keep on tying. Yes. And they get paid rupees 72 for that. And you can see how, even their pot, you have to sit next to him and then work. It's a way of, you can make it up. I don't know, I'm just thinking on this. Yes, please. Yeah. So this is the stems of kinds of jaw plant. And normally in the cell they have metal teeth so that it can withstand the more number of yarns so that they grow. Yes, please. Yeah. Finally now the warp is done. Where again you can see a old man sitting and then doing it. And this has to be, again, the hank has to be converted into ferns, later into small ferns. Yes, please. Yeah, so this is what happened. What the ferns are actually taken into the shuttles. Shuttles are the one which moves within the shed form in the loom to create the fabric. Yes. So you can see the bobbins and the shuttles, the colorful picture. Yeah, you can see them sitting in the weaving shed. Next one. Weaving actually happened. It's a very simple plain loom and plain weave and its derivatives. They have basket weave, hopsack weave, and then simple plain weave. That's all. It's a very simple thing. Of course, the design is brought in by the checks and stripes. So they don't have to really deal with the weave. Now, I mean, there is a debate. What's the big difference between a pit loom and a frame loom or even a power loom? Of course, we'll have to really prove it with some scientific research. But they say when you weave next to the ground, the fabric is closer to the ground, which is like moist. It keeps the fabric moist. So the handling of the fabric is definitely better compared to the power looms, which are like made in power looms, I mean in frame looms, and also the beating up. Beating up creates a different texture totally, gives a different texture totally. I wish some research scholar takes it up. I would be really happy to associate with them. It would be really good to prove a point, the difference between, I mean the handle of the fabric. I mean now we have a lot of testing methods where we can prove the difference in handle. So we can really work on it. Yes, please, next one. So this is the bit, they literally half sit. Men normally they remove the dhoti, they just go with their undies and then sit down because it's not very heavy, but women don't have a choice. As usual. Yes. So yeah, this is the pedal that they handle, which is actually the bit. Next one please. And in Kadalur and in other places, even Kadalur, I've seen the exporters build sheds. So the weavers don't have looms at home. They come there and then they weave. So you can see in a loom shed, there's a loom shed, and you can see women sitting there and weaving good sari. Of course, you know what sari they wear? Polyester sari. This was made hot sari. Yes. So it takes about 3 hours to make a meter of fabric, and they fetch 150 per meter. Next one, please. And this, I found out, this actually existed for hundreds of years. I was told they divide the work. Okay, so as we saw the steps in the preparation of fabric, and then after that the weaving. So 75%, 78% of the weaving gauges go to the weaver, and 13% goes to the master weaver. Drafting is what they tie the piecing, and then pearl minding 3%. So this actually was established for quite some time. I was told for the past 15 years they've shifted to 75 and 25. So now there is a small little difference which has been brought in. Next one. Yeah. So this is how we can find out. People know we don't know the difference between how to make out the difference between handloom and power loom. How do we, or what don't we know? Yeah, we can definitely know because they use this wooden bow. Here they have 10 pins, and some places might have 8 pins. In particular, this particular place I've seen them using the wooden bow with 10 pins, and it is attached to the loom so that they can keep the fabric taut. So this gives a typical look, the pinned frayed edges in the edge. I was told even power loom products, they appoint somebody, I think Mr. Ramaswamy told me, they appoint somebody and then they prick
just to give that look.
Just to create the look of handloom. So, I mean, they can do whatever. They should have the courage to call, this is handloom, this is power loom, let the people make a call, take a call on that, yes. So, you can see the position of the wooden bow here, where it really holds it under tension. Yes, next one. Okay, quality checking is very simple. After they finish folding this corner piece, they weigh it. If it is 1 kg, then the weaver has not stolen anything. He's put all the cameras. That's all it is. So that's a very simple quality checking. Of course, they also go through whether there are defects and all that. They do that. It's because it's all export. So this is according to the exporter. Actually, they pay 50% towards weaving. Yarns cost them 30%, sizing 7, warping 3, profit is 10%. That's according to them. Yes. Okay, and you'll be so surprised to know because a lungi is a lungi, checked. What's the big deal? I mean, it is a structured fabric. Even a sari is such a structured fabric. And you'll be so surprised to know you go to different parts of the country. Every part of the sari has a particular name for it. And every motif has a name for it. So even in lungi, I found the same thing. And a lungi actually, I said 2 meters by 1.5 meters. And exactly in the center, there is a bar, which is called as kambam. And it's called as kapala in Southeast Asia. because they consider that's the head of the lungi. They say, we found out in powerloom this was not possible initially. So they were like making running, yardages, but then they realized this is the thing which is differentiating them from the handloom. So they tried making it and they were successful at it. Yes. So this is how the kambam looks, and yeah, we can see the checked pattern. And normally this kambam is in red or black. That's always the thing. Here the design specification, normally they give it in pattai. So how many pattais are to be woven? That's how they give it. And then the minimum can vary from 5, maximum can go up to 50. 25. Yeah. So this is how it is, the minimum. Normally they have the white color next to the selvage. And even here the same thing, and of course you can see how they are trying to bring in the 25. 25 is the maximum number of stripes that they can bring in. And that when we use a dark color with a white color, it's called as off color, which is the most sought after design in Malaysia. And full color is actually more sought after in India. As I was told, it's more sought after where we use 2 different colors, and then we like really good contrast. Yes. So this is all our color check meant for Malaysian market. You can see the various bits of checks and stripes. Next one, please. Yeah. So they, apart from the checks and stripes, they also make the stripes, which is called as pidari. Pidari is simple stripes, and then they have katari, which is actually vapikat. Vapikat is something we know. Yeah, it's made in Andhra Pradesh, Kochumpalli, and Patola. But this ikat is almost ubiquitous in India, but they don't bother to match, or it's not like a double ikat. It's a vapikat. And another thing which is like well of kandu weaving, I would say the hopsack weaving, which is called as payadi. You all know what is payadi. Payadi checks is also popular in silk sarees. So that's what is really popular. These are simple web stripe, pidari. I hope I'm on time. I'm not exceeding the time. Yeah, I can just quickly move. And you can see the pidari being woven. And this is vapikat lungi, where ikats are nothing but tie-dye. You can just move on. It's just you can see the yarns are tied and then dyed. So they create a particular pattern. This is starched yarn. Yeah. So you can see the lungi in making, the vapikat lungi. And you have pulli katari, which is like dot ties. They are much minute. You can see the texture that it creates. And this is actually the payadi checks, which is nothing but hopsack, which simulates the mat of whatever we use. Yes, please. Can we be moving? Yeah, you can see the weaver is like 80 years old, and she's still weaving. I was told he's one of the experts in making payadi. Payadi cannot be woven. I never saw any woman weaving the payadi. Payadi is supposed to be specialized weave there. Yeah, these are all stocked up to be exported. And the sample is always patterned full length, the entire width of the lungi. And I managed to see about like 5 to 6 decade old swatches in some of the export houses. And I couldn't make out the big difference in terms of color palette. It's almost the fashion. It was like a classic style. The same thing was going on. Yeah, this I can quickly say. I looked at the weaver's perspective, the exporter's perspective, and then the buyer's perspective. At that point of time, exporters were very happy. They were getting an incentive, and then there was a duty thing. Duty. Yeah, they will. Yeah, could you just
Go back one.
Oh, sorry.
One more.
One more. Yeah, there was a duty drawback of 4%. And established channel of distribution. There was always a steady demand and then adaptability. Weavers and cheap labor more than anything else. And weavers, they could work at home, hereditary craft. They belong to most of the community. Mostly they were from Senegars, Devangars, Sengundar, Kaikula. These were the communities. They continued from their forefathers. So they just continued. They had no issues about it. Proximity to the market. It was working from a known environment. Your wife can work. If you will have to go for agriculture, you can go, or you can start weaving. And if you want to weave, you are in real need of money, you quickly weave. go get the money. I mean, it was very, very flexible. So that was how it was, sustaining. Yeah. And in Bai's perspective, there was studying a man there. Suppose people wore lungi, especially the middle-aged and old men. Young men wore lungi at home, but not outside. And especially during Ramzan and all that, there used to be great demand. I was told by the exporters we need to really hide our consignment because there used to be so much of demand in the market. So, yeah. So what hit them was technological upgradation. Sometimes it also hits somebody. Late 90s, the Paulum barge into Kadalur dealing scenario. So there afterwards, it was such a downward thing, and you can see some of the handlooms. They are like, you can see the corporates and things. And yes, rightly, Ms. Tyagarajan said, like, weavers are poor weavers. Whatever happens in political scenario, they are affected. Whatever happens in economical, even natural calamities. I mean, can you believe? Somewhere, especially I was told during the tsunami, so many weavers got washed away, so many buyers got washed away in Indonesia. So that link was broken, and after that they could never go back, bounce back. So it was such a sad thing, and of course, like financial crisis of Asian financial crisis. So especially during the last few years of the 20th century was really very bad for them. Yes. So now everything's changed. It addresses only. One buyer said, some old men, they come and ask if it is, they ask for especially handloom, we say when you bend, it doesn't get torn. I mean, the tear strength is better in handloom. I mean, maybe perception because you don't have any scientific research to prove it, but they really come for handloom lungis because of the quality. Apart from that, nobody has any clue about handloom lungis now in other countries, especially Southeast Asian market, and also adulteration. I mean, calling themselves as handlooms, and then Malaysia and Indonesia setting up their own looms, power looms in polyester. They have it. Exporters who they say now, whatever was being exported is only 10%, and even within that there is power loom. I don't think it's going to survive anymore. And yeah, some of the weavers really, they didn't want their younger generation to. They managed to educate their children. They're all engineers working in IT companies now. And in the IT companies, they have so much of stress, they're going back to weaving to relax themselves. I was told there is a loom seller, he says, I'm now promoting my looms as looming, weaving as a hobby to the IT industry. Now it's come on full circle. Yes, please. So, yeah, these are some of the pictures of the weavers I've interacted with the women and the men. Yeah, the number you can see is drastically reduced. Yeah, this is the solid state of weavers. Please, yeah, we can just go on. Yeah, there was a brand which, sustainable design. We can just go on. Now we're trying to promote lungis. We're trying to do the lungi dance and,
In a lot of the literature, they talk about the check men's loincloth. I always thought that the loin was the loincloth, but what was the loincloth? It is the lungi. It's not just the shoe.
Yeah.
Okay, so they just use the word loincloth.
Yes.